Okay, welcome to part two of the third exercise in a corporate model. How incredibly exciting this must be. Well, it will be because we're going to use the model to make a series of different forecasts, and we're going to automate this model through making it really flexible. So in one, when it's the history, we'll use one set of forecasts, and the when it's the future, we'll use the other. Now, the first thing, I almost should have done this last time. Let's select the whole sheet here. Okay, at least to go out to here. And let's make a little conditional formatting that will show when it's a history and when it's a forecast. So to be fancy again, as we do this, let's use a formula. And this time, I think it won't be that hard even, because we're going to start introducing how we can do this. Now, when you use this formula, the first thing to do is to click on, why don't we click on this cell and press the F4 key once. Whoops. Where is my, oh no. Okay. Let's try it again. Conditional formatting, new rule. I'm going to use a format. I hope I didn't screw it up just now, but let's click on this one. And let's use the F4 key to keep it on row number 3. And if you don't put anything else, it'll just say when this is true. And when this is true, let's format, let's use the fill and use a kind of light, how about this color? Ooh, I suppose that's okay. And if we want to even go further, okay, so what happened here is, and when it's a history, that kind of didn't work so well with the very top, but then when it's a forecast, we have a different one. If we wanted to go here, how about this? Let's try all the way to the end. I hope this doesn't, I should test whether this really makes the thing too big. It might. So we can go, this time, hopefully I won't screw up like I did last time. And let's click on this one and press the F4 key a couple of times and make that equal to false. And then when it's false, let's put a format and let's put a little bit of a different color. Press OK, and we'll see if that worked. Okay. And the bad news is it did it for everything. I'm going to delete those rows. That didn't really help. Okay, so now let's start working on some assumptions. Now, here's the way that you can set these up however you'd like. But my suggestion is to put some history in and use we're going to start showing you the real magic of this historic switch. And let's say, if it's the historic switch, this is for the revenue growth. Let's take the first line of the profit and loss statement, divide it by the prior line, and put -1. And don't put anything. Shift Control. Okay, didn't work. Okay. Shift Control R. And hopefully, well, it didn't go all the way, so Shift Control R again. What happens with the way we did the false statement, it just puts false in the ones that aren't true. Now let's get a scenario number and put that at least in our little special column to the side and say if it's the history up here, then we'll take our historic number. Otherwise, this time, let's take the index and select the 3 and put our index code in there. Okay. I hope this was supposed to be all automated. Shift Control R. Okay, so there's our actual sales, and when we have the history, if we put another, I'm going to cheat. If I put number 2 in, we get this Control Z, so we just have it. So let's practice that one more time. Okay, I'm going to put the code number in here. Whenever we have a index, we better put the whole code number. Let's make the capex to sales. If it's the history, then we go up to the capex from our cash flow statement and divide that by the sales from our profit and loss statement. No thing in the false part. Okay, so then we go down here. Now that capex to sales, I think, and modeling the capex is one of the most important things really in the whole model, particularly on the terminal value. If you don't have any data at all from the, well, you have some from the company, but so let's put, if it's the historic switch, we're going to take the history. Otherwise, we're going to take the index of all 3 of these and go to that code number and press the F4 key. Okay, and then we continue. So what happened is it takes the history and then it takes one of the 3 columns. Now, for the next ones, we're just going to use a whole series of different approaches. So let's say the history, for the history, again, if it's shit, quiet! If it's the history, we take the accounts receivable divided by the sales, and then we leave it false. Otherwise, for the projected, it says take the average of the history. How about if we take average? Here's a little trick. Average if, and I hope that other than the index, maybe this becomes one of your favorite commands. And the way it's really cool to use it is if you take a whole line, and then if we say, well, when it's the history is true, let's take the average of this whole line. So I'm not sure you'd ever really want to do this. And then we have the average of this, and now we can use it for the forecast. And let's, this is horrible. This was supposed to come from the generic macros. We still have to fix that. If it's true, then we take the history. Otherwise, we take the projection. You're probably getting irritated with this stupid little decimal thing. And then now we're going to make a different one. Now let's take the depreciation rate. Let's get, if it's the history, let's take the depreciation expense from our profit and loss statement and divide that by the net plant. Okay, you could divide it by the average net plant. In fact, I think we should divide it by the opening net plant. So that's our, whoops, what did I do? I didn't divide it. Sorry. Okay. And, oh God. Okay. And I'm going to delete it from the first line. And then the projected one this time, oh no. What did I do? I still didn't seem to put a divide sign there. Okay. And then if it's the history, if it's not the, if it's, God, if it's the projected, let's take so if it's the, how about not the history, then we can take the last one. Otherwise, we'll leave it false. So what happens here is just, it goes, oops. No, we can't do that. We have to put the false one. We have to put the history in for this. Oops. Come on. Then we take, oh, geez. Oh, this is embarrassing with it can't close the door to the bathroom. if it's the history, then we take this one, otherwise we take this one, okay? And I'm not turning off the video after this. Now let's make, how about this one? We have two other inputs. This time our projected input, let's say we have a interest expense EX PENSE rate and come on, an interest expense rate, let's say that's 3%, and let's say this is 1%. And we're still, oops, let's put that in the projected column. Okay, and maybe here, I don't know if this is, if you like this, but we can press F4, Shift Control R, F4, Shift Control R. Now, in the historic year, let's take the interest income, which this was interest expense. How about divided by the prior year debt? Okay. What did I do? If it's the historic year, then take the interest expense divided by the prior year debt. Okay. And then otherwise, it becomes false. Okay. And then, as usual, if it's the historic switch, then we take this one. Otherwise, come on. If it's the historic switch, then we take this one. Otherwise, we take this one. Okay. And this video is getting long, but I really don't know what to do about it. And finally, if it's the historic switch, then we'll take the interest income rate. This is kind of repetitive, but I'm doing these whole things, so we'll take that divided by the cash. I hope I didn't screw that one up. And then we Shift Control R. If it's the historic switch, then we take the history, otherwise we take this. Now, I think it's really, really important to graph these assumptions out and to graph the history next to the forecast and do it really kind of efficiently and in a kind of good way, so that you can demonstrate all of the histories. And we're going to use the index function to do that. But for now, that's part 2 of our corporate model, 13 minutes. Okay.